right, hello, how are you? Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to talk to some real people about some real things, living real lives, doing real stuff. This is the Working Perspectives Podcast. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied as always by my editor and producer, Tom Byers. Our guest today is the one, the only, Steve Cabot. Shake, we've talked about him before. I'm excited. I know you're excited. How you feeling, buddy? What's your deal?
I'm doing well, and I'm really excited for this one. This is going to be a good one.
Samesies. All right, you can find us on all our socials you can find us on every podcast platform at Working Perspectives Podcast and on Spotify at The Working Perspectives Podcast, on YouTube at Working Perspectives Podcast. You can follow us on the Twitter at Working P Pod, and we're on Instagram at Working Perspectives Podcast. If you would like to be a guest on the show, then hit us up at workingperspectives@gmail.com. All right, Shake, you ready, babe?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get this shit started. Let's go. All right. Shake diggity dog. Let me tell you about this one. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Tell me.
Okay, so Shake Diggity, I know that we talk a lot about wrestling on this show. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand, wrestling is one of those cultures where if you're in it, you're fucking in it, right? And
yes.
It's one of those things like it's almost like a brotherhood. You have to be indoctrinated into it. Like there's kids you might not like, but if they were legit wrestling, right? Like if they legit did it, there's a connection. Even if you really don't like them, but there is a connection, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I love Steve. That's not what I'm saying. So Steve here. Steve was, so when I was a sophomore, our team ended up being like third in the state in dual meets and like massive studs, right?
Yeah.
Then the next year, there was kind of a drop off and we got a bunch of young kids and Steve had to right that ship, right? And he had to take over as captain of that team and keep the ball rolling, which he did because the team ended up in postseason, ended up winning districts and regions. So not too shabby. And Steve had a lot to do with that, right?
Yeah.
So we're going into, so like we've talked about before, we've brought up postseason. And I remember you wrestling postseason. And I remember you specifically saying how you were jealous because it's like, it is cool to say you've been like, honestly, if you're from Pennsylvania and you're a wrestler and you're a state qualifier, not even a place winner or a state champ or whatever, if you're a state qualifier, that means a lot. It's a big deal. If you're a regional qualifier, that's a lot because it is fucking tough, man. I remember there was a kid in a school near us. He was a freshman in high school. He won the Virginia State Championships. Then he came up to Pennsylvania, right, as a sophomore and never made it out of districts, right? Pennsylvania is a different level when it comes to wrestling. So if you're a regional qualifier or if you're a state qualifier, right, then that means you can fucking go and you're legit. So that being said, Steve had a really good career. He had wrestled varsity all 4 years, right? He was a fucking legend on the team. He was a legend in the school for a bunch of reasons. So either way, we'll get into that eventually. But so we're going into the postseason, and I'll tell you. I have to bring this up because it will come up later. So we had a bunch of like rival teams, like, you know, like we were a big deal in wrestling. So people wanted to come at us. So one of the rivals was the school Neshaminy, right? Mm-hmm. So at Neshaminy, there was this kid that my brother Asshole had wrestled the year before, right? And at this time, I was very involved in I was very into wrestling. So I was like an encyclopedia. Like I knew a lot. I got all the magazines. I was really into it, right? Mm-hmm. So at this time, Asshole had wrestled this kid and he won, but it was like I remember afterwards saying, he's like, God, the guy's sprawl was so tough. He had like a really tough sprawl, right? So students used to come up to me.
What's a sprawl?
Oh, so if you were to take it, well, so say if we're standing up and I go to take a shot and the guy like kicks his leg back and like defends the shot, right? That's called a sprawl.
Like he's not easy to he's not going to play by your rules, basically.
So so say if I took a shot on you, right? Like we're standing up and I try to take a shot on your legs and you shoot, like you swing your legs back and dump your chest on my back, right? Yeah. That's a sprawl. And apparently this kid had like a really tough one. So that's what Asshole said though. But you know, either way, that's asshole saying it.
Can't trust him.
So, no, you can't. And turns out you can't. So either way, Steve used to come up to me before his matches and be like, "Hey, what do you know about this guy? Hey, what do you know about this guy?" And I would give him like, you know, he didn't do it all the time, but he would do it, and I'd be like, "This is what this guy said, and this is what this guy does," right? Mm-hmm. So for this particular guy, I told him, I was like, "Hey, asshole said last year that this guy's got a tough sprawl, so watch out for the sprawl." So the whole match, Steve doesn't shoot on the guy because of what I said. Steve ends up losing, right? And but at the very end of the match, like before, you know, at the end of the match, he goes and shoots on the guy and takes him down right away. So had he not listened to me and was shooting the whole time, he would have fucking won, right? So let's get to postseason. Okay. So we're at postseason. The first tournament in postseason is called sectionals, right? So that's like all the teams in your surrounding school are all the schools in your surrounding area go, right? So for North Penn, it was like Penridge, Souderton, Quakertown, like those ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the ones that you kind of are expected to take down.
Yeah, like they're the close ones. They're like the ones close to home.
Yeah.
So we go there, right? And Steve, I think, was ranked like he was like seated like number 2 in his weight class. Really, like very much expected to do well. He wins his first match. In his second match, though, he loses. And so what it is for sectionals is the top 3 place winners go on to districts, right? Yeah. So it's a must-win situation. So Steve loses his second match and has to go to what's called wrestlebacks. So he goes into, they call it the loser's bracket, but you go into the loser's bracket. So he had to wrestle a bunch of times and beat a bunch of guys, and he had to go into the Conci finals, they're called, and he had to win to go on to the next week, right?
Oh, okay.
So he ends up winning, right? And he places 3rd. So he just barely makes it out of sections to go to districts, right? So he makes it to districts. Know this, he is the second to last ranked seed. He was ranked so far back, right, that he had to have a pigtail, like a you know how they do in the March Madness tournament, they have a play-in game? Yeah. He had to have a play-in match to get in. So he was basically, he's like, you know, the lowest ranked school, whatever, going in, right? He wins his play-in match against a tough kid, right? Then he has to face the number 1 seeded kid in his weight class. Beats him.
Damn.
Right? Big upset. Then he goes, that was the quarterfinals. Then he goes to, or that was, I think, the first round. So then he goes to the quarterfinals, wins again. Then he goes to the semifinals, wins again. Then he goes to the finals, right? So now this kid went from being the last ranked to now he's in the finals. So last seed going into the finals to wrestle for first place. And who does he wrestle for first place? None other than the bozo from the Neshaminy that I told him not to spar against, right? So before the match, first off, so there's this kid, his name's Mark Smith. Fantastic wrestler. He had broke the record for a number of pins in a high school career. He's a phenomenal legend wrestler. He would end up getting outstanding wrestler at this tournament because he pinned his way through. Ooh, big day. The real outstanding wrestler of this tournament was the kid who had to wrestle the most matches, right? He had to wrestle the most time because every match went the distance, right? Yeah. And he had to wrestle like the top seeds in his weight class. Yeah. He didn't get a break. He had to wrestle the top guys, right? So that guy didn't get outstanding wrestler, even though he should have, and that was Steve. So Steve goes to the finals. He kicks the shit I told him to the curb, and he's like, fuck this guy, sprawl, and he fucking beats the brakes off this kid, right? And he ends up going from being the last seed to winning districts, which is, dude, I'm telling you, doesn't happen a lot. So it's a big, big thing.
Yeah.
So now Steve gets to go to regionals. So so it's top 4 make it out of districts, and then the top 3 make it out of regions. And this is the big money round, Shake, because the top 3 get to go to states, right? Just saying it, like you made it to states
Yeah.
You were state qualifier. That is such a big thing. It's a big presence, right? So Steve comes in. He's ranked 2. But it is to be said, the number 1 ranked kid in his weight class that day would have a Sports Illustrated article come out about him, saying about this amazing feat that he could do, and because he was like 99% deaf, right?
Oh, okay.
This kid's name was Brad Forbes. So Steve's ranked number 2. I will tell you this. I didn't think this because I knew Steve, but there was some people saying that Steve got lucky to make it here and that he was going to crap out and there's no way he's going to states. There's no way, right? Guess what happened? Steve fucking flipped him the bird, tell him to go shove, right? Yeah, Steve fucking tell him put a fucking egg in their shoe and beat it, right? He wins his first round match, wins the quarterfinals, semifinals, and he makes it to the finals, right? The finals of regionals. You have to understand, this is a massive deal. We are from a very tough region, right? In the toughest wrestling state in the country, right? We're in a very tough region. And you have to imagine, there's thousands of kids that have tried to get to this spot, right? So he had to beat out, like, there's thousands of kids trying to do this, and he's the one that made it. So he makes it to the finals against this kid, Brad Forbes. Now, Brad Forbes was attempting to do something only 2 other people in the history of the Southeast region wrestling have ever done. So he would have won regionals 4 years in a row. So there's only ever been 2 other people to do that. Both of those 2 other people were alumni of North Penn. One's name was Chris Kortnick and the other's name was Dan Finaccio, right? Okay. So both of those guys won regionals 4 times. Brad Forbes going against Steve, if he wins regionals, he would be the 4th time. It would be the 3rd person to ever do it, the first person in like 15 years or something, right? And he's got a disability because he's partially deaf, right? So going into this, a lot of pressure was on Steve from the alumni saying, fucking, dude, this is a 4-time regional champ. That's a North Penn thing. This guy doesn't get it, whatever. Yeah. Steve told him, hey, go fuck yourself, all right? I'm the one that had to make weight. I'm the one that had to he's legit wrestled the most matches out of any other wrestler to get to this point, right? He's cut all the weight. He's wrestled all the top guys. And he said, fuck you big time. Because guess what? I'm going to states, win or lose. So he went out there. He ends up losing to Forbes. Big fucking deal, right? The big thing is this fucking comeback king of the Cuyahoga went from barely making it out of sectionals to having a pigtail match at districts, to winning districts and getting snubbed for OW, then making it to regionals where everyone thought he was a fucking shoe bag that was just going to get thrown out the first fucking week, right? Or first fucking night, and ends up making it to the finals there and fucking making it to states, and he's a state qualifier. And that is a big fucking deal, all right? That's a big fucking deal.
That's intense.
Guys will wrestle their whole career and aspire just to make it to regionals, and he's made it to states, and he was runner-up at regionals, which is a massive, massive deal. So, that being said, Steve's a good guy. He's a great friend of the show, and he's, great captain and everything like that. He's doing great. He's running a garage with his brother, and everything's going well. Steve, I know you're doing great and all that stuff. I just like to ask, have you seen the movie Bohemian Rhapsody? And if yes, what do you think of that piece of shit movie?
Sure did see it, Matt. Not one of my favorites. I can say that.
All right.
Not on my top to-do list,
That's what I'm fucking saying, baby. That's put another one in the lost column for old fucking Bohemian Shit City, okay? Movies suck. So bad. All right. Steubens, what's up, babe? How you doing, pal?
Doing great. Got a little bit of a gripe with the little preamble.
Oh, for Christ. Oh, for fuck.
Everyone does.
What is?
Here's the fucking thing. I worked out a lot of my life in gyms with your brother, and I happen to like that kid a lot. So let's not call him asshole. Tom's my guy.
Oh, for fucking Christ's sake.
Tom's my fucking guy.
Oh, no.
Wow. If I knew if it was going to be an ambush, Stevens, my God.
What can I say?
All right. Well, whatever. We'll leave asshole out of this for now. Golly.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Maybe he's
up,
blackmailing
buddy?
him or something. There must be
that's
some
what
sort
I'm
of
thinking
thing
it is.
this.
Yeah. Well, you guys were drilling partners too, weren't you?
For a while. Yeah. Tom, and then I really respected Tom when there's just something about the second you graduate, like there's no pressure on you. You just wrestle so much different. And I remember me and him being, on the same level, no problem, because Tom was a beast. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the motherfucker was like steps ahead of me when we got to after he graduated. Like I was having real issues with him. I'm like, what the fuck? And then the second I graduated, I had like the same view when I came back and wrestled with guys. Like, it just makes it easier when the pressure's not on you.
Well, what weights did you wrestle at?
So I started my freshman year at 119, which I never ever had to lose weight before in my life, right? So I get there and I finally make varsity, right? I got a bunch of these like juniors and sophomores looking at me going, because in North Penn, 9th grade's not in the high school. So you have to get bussed up from the middle schools, and it's a pain in the ass. So the seniors are already annoyed because they got to wait for you, and they're already pissed off. But I walked into a team that was 12-4, had a lot of like strong personalities on it. It's a tough room to walk into. It's not, North Penn's a wrestling program. They have a lot of respect. There's a lot of tough nails guys in there. So I walk in trying to be, I won a lot of youth tournaments. I had a little bit of a youth swag to me. I thought I was the man. I was undefeated. Middle school, was beating the brakes off of people. Walk in there my 9th grade year. A couple guys want to test me. I beat the brakes off them. I make varsity. I think I'm the next Zach Freiling. And then I go out and I don't realize that I've never lost weight before in my life. No weight cutting. Just always walked in and weighed what I was. I wrestled.
Yeah, whatever you happen to be.
So I show up that day. I'm supposed to make 119. I get on the scale. We're wrestling Penn Ridge. We have to go to Penn Ridge. There's about an hour before the match. I step on the scale and I'm 124. So
shit.
literally an hour before we have to wrestle. And now I got guys like Adam Brown and some of the older guys like Falterbauer and Messerschmitt and all these bigger guys going, "Oh, you fucking idiot. You got to lose the weight." Like, and I'm like, well, what do I do? So now I start piling on sweatshirts, start piling on jackets. I go to the pool room. I'm running. I'm passing out. I'm running. I'm passing out. They're waking me up. I finally get to Penn Ridge. I'm a 0.4 over. Now I'm trying to pee. I'm trying to throw up. I'm trying to do anything to lose that. I can't lose it. I finally get it done. Make weight. And I'm all excited, right? So I'm like, fuck yeah, I made weight. Now I get to do this. I go back, try to eat something, but my stomach's all fucked up now, so you can't really eat. Go out into the match. And of course, it's against a kid that I used to wrestle in youth. I used to beat the shit out of him. I'm like, I'm going to kill this kid. And I wrestle like shit because I'm completely depleted and I'm a fucking idiot. So I go out there and it's a pretty close match. Of course, it goes into overtime. I do win. So I'm like, hell yeah. My next 2 matches, I win in a row and I'm 3-0. There was another guy on the squad who was a freshman at that time. The only other freshman was Dave Witt. Dave Witt is 103.
Legend.
So me and Witt are 103 and 119, and we work out all the time together. There was a guy in between us at 112, Asa, who was absolutely terrible, which used to make us feel good because me and him would just beat the shit out of this poor kid. But so we get out there, and Witt's 3-0. I'm 3-0. There's all this talk. They were like, Cabot was good in youth. This is going to be great. There's another wave coming up, and they made another wave that was like the Radisoni, Hill, Freiling. You guys all coming up. We were like, all right, cool. So I'm out there. They're thinking I'm going to be some big deal, and then I realized that I'm a freshman, and I lose like my next 10 straight matches. Just get the shit beat out of me, and I'm like, oh, there's levels to stuff. It's just how it goes in the sport. So.
But it strengthens you, though.
Oh, of course.
It strengthened you.
It's one
taking
of
those beatings is mentally and physically strengthened you.
Agreed. And there's nothing. If there's ever a sport that, like, people always like the analogy I use for a lot of people is the same thing you see with MMA. If you look at the UFC, every champion is like 37 years old. In any other professional sport, that's a dinosaur. But in that sport, experience means so much. Just mat time means so much. So. Just being able to see different guys so that by the time you get to be an older wrestler and like your senior year of high school, you've seen the freak athlete kid that doesn't know how to wrestle. You know how to handle him. You know how to wrestle the ultra strong kid. You know how to wrestle the technically sound kid. You know the kid who has all the stamina in the world. You just have those experiences. It's nothing new to you. So you just keep it moving. But so we get the snot beat out of us. It's not the best, but it's part of the ongoing process of the sport.
The analogy a lot of people use is that wrestling doesn't build character, it reveals it.
I agree.
So you being able to like because a lot of people would shrink from that, and a lot of people would give up, and a lot of people would turn tail. But you being able to fight through that and come back and then be successful, that shows a lot about your character.
I also,
not to big up you or anything.
No, but I hear you. I hear you. I think the other, the intangible for me was I had an older brother who was 5 years older than me. So there was a clear gap between me and him.
That'll do
so
it.
when I was 8, he was 13, almost 14. When I was 10, he was 15. When I was 12, he was an 18-year-old man. He beat the brakes off of me my whole life. Him and his friends and his buddies. Yeah. So he used to laugh and take a lot of credit for it and be like, yeah, if I didn't beat the shit out of you on the daily, you wouldn't have learned how to like scrub out of things. And, you know, even if he could beat me for an hour, and no matter what, I would just internally not let him see me in pain because I didn't want him to get that satisfaction, and wait and wait and wait and wait until my chance, and then run up and punch him dead in the nuts and then run away. You know? So it builds that.
Brother move.
Yeah,
I
it's all
learned
about strategy.
I think I learned at a young age that there's no motivation for me like spite. For people who say you can't, you're not going to do this, you can't do that, you're not good enough to do this, you know?
Dude, plus too, I'll say it, you're fearless out there. Like, you're not afraid. Like, so we brought up before on the Hill episode where my dad said Hill was his favorite.
My fucking guy. The toughest motherfucker I ever knew. That's my guy.
And he said, you were the best man at Hill's wedding. Yeah. So Hill had said, or my dad said he liked Hill, but he liked Cabot a lot too, because the same reasons. Cabot used to have this, it's called a crossface, but we'll say what it was. It was a fucking forearm shiver, and he would shiver the shit out of a guy. Like, I remember being at a match and being like, Jesus Christ, like, you're taking guys' heads off with this thing. And the ref, they're just like, hey, let's let them wrestle. You know what I mean? So that kind of aggressiveness too has to come from like, look, fuck you, I'm getting mine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you might win, but you're not going to want to wrestle me again. Like, that kind of attitude is what makes success and what makes it so that you can keep coming back. Also, and we did say it, like, Wit being your training partner, right? Like, your drilling partners is a thing. It's a very serious thing. And
super serious.
And you know too, when it gets to the MMA level and boxing and things like that, your training partners is a legit thing. It's a very much, you're in it together. But you said it too when we had our pre-show. Iron sharpens iron, right? Steel sharpens steel, whatever the fuck it is. So if you have a guy that's good, he's only making you better, right? That's it. And like, you just got to keep pushing, and that's what's going to do it. So you having Wit as a training partner, weren't you training partners with Schoendorfer too?
Yeah, I mean, but Frankie was an athlete, and he was athletic, and Frankie was ridiculously tough. But Frankie only started wrestling in like middle school. So to a guy like me that like, wait, been wrestling since you were 6 years old, we would just, it wasn't on the same level. But it's always good to have that guy in there that, even though I was technically much better, I could take him down. He would never give me anything easy, ever.
Yeah.
No way.
Making you work for it.
And, and then, like I said, one of my phrases I still tell, because I coach at this time in my life, the only thing I tell my kids all the time is you're only as good as your partner. So if my partner wants to fuck around and be a jabroni all day, you're going to be a fucking jabroni too. So if your partner, so like, I used to get upset when I was a freshman. There was a guy, Kevin Hammond, who was the senior captain, and he was 125. So he was the weight class above me. And that psychopath was one of those gym room legends. Never performed well when the pressure was on, but in the training room, fucking monster. And he always used to cardio for days. And he loved, for some reason, because I'm also a how do I say this nicely? An asshole. So because I'm like I'm not a quiet person.
We'll call you a straight shooter, Steve. We'll say a straight shooter.
Not a quiet person. So
put a nice shine on it.
Of course, when I was opening my mouth, they were like, "I'm gonna fucking punish this little turd," So they gave it to me pretty good.
Yeah, and that's
I remember one time you threw a mop at me.
Oh my god!
It was a wet mop out of the bucket too. I was like, "Oh, thank God he missed."
Well, I apologize.
Yeah, but then you threw the mop, but no, we were fucking around. I remember. Okay, Shake, you wanted to say something. What were you saying?
I have
Shake?
a question, and I learn a lot about wrestling through this podcast and listening to Matt and the people he has on. And I don't come from a wrestling background.
Yep.
I played football. My whole family played football forever.
Yep.
And we were very comfortable football players, like on the field. And you were just saying some people can perform like animals in practice. And then when the lights get turned on, the crowd's there, they shrivel up. And what my question is when it comes to wrestling, it seems like you guys always had to be very autonomous. Like you had to be like your own kind of motivator, your own like
big time
disciplinarian.
It's the hardest part.
And a lot of it was like, you know, like you didn't want to disappoint yourself or your parents or whoever. In football, it's kind of the opposite. You're like, you're sort of in the system. The coaches are like gods. Like they are the ones who make or break you. And if you just follow the rules, you'll be okay. And is that how it is with wrestling? Like, did you guys really, like, I know there's coaches and like, I know Steve, you coach, but like, is it seems like it's a little bit different.
It's much different. And so this aspect of wrestling, like I always try to explain it to people. This is the reason why I'm such a proponent of it. It's one of my, you know, I mean, I love wrestling, so I'm a little biased, but I'm so pro wrestling for the fact that there's a couple aspects of this little phenomenon with wrestling. One is people don't realize that it's not the match that makes wrestlers, it's everything else. So when I have to lose weight, there's nobody there with me. There's no coach telling me to go do it. There's actually my mom telling me, please, can you eat? Please don't do this. And it's up to you to put on that plastic suit after practice and go jog for 5 miles. And it's the same way where if I'm on a football field, because don't get me wrong, I said this with Matt too. I think he's the same way. We said this earlier that football was my first love. I still love football. I think even maybe more than wrestling. So played Squires my whole life, played all the way up until 10th grade, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then they kind of made us either choose one or the other, blah, blah. But so with the wrestling aspect too, it teaches 2 giant life lessons. The first one is accountability. And there's nothing like wrestling, because if I, like, you know, me and we were saying, one of the maniacs of my really good friends, Romeo, like when we were young kids, we got to play the line together. Like if I didn't pick up a block, Romeo would clean him out for me, and vice versa. We always had each other's backs. We were out there. There's nothing like that in wrestling, right? So if I don't work out hard or I don't feel good that day, it doesn't matter, because you're the only one out there and there's no excuse. And if you don't want to work hard at practice, or you don't want to, you know, do the moves, or you don't want to put in the work, it will show immediately. So you learn that immediate accountability, that if I want something and I want to look good, I better bust my ass when people aren't looking, because when they are looking in wrestling, it's going to show if you did or you didn't do the work immediately. The other aspect of it that I always really, really like is the fact of learning how to accept a loss. So I tell my kids this all the time. Like this is why we say too, the wrestling parents are crazier than any group of parents there is on the planet. Because of the fact that when say I have a son, little Timmy loses at a football game, I say, wasn't me. It was Byers' kid couldn't get him the ball. It wasn't my kid. Or I go, you know, Matt missed that tackle. It wasn't my kid. Where in wrestling, when they watch their kid lose, there's nowhere to point but inward. So they start to go berserk, right? I've seen moms run on mats at youth tournaments, pull other kids off their kids. Moms straight fight on them. It's bananas. But it teaches a kid that it's almost the opposite of this climate nowadays, where when you know, the analogy I always used was when you were a kid and I came home in 2nd grade and said, Mom, my teacher sucks. You went, well, guess what, Buttercup? You're going to suck it up. Maybe we'll get a better one next year. And you go, all right. Well, nowadays, little Timmy comes home and says, Mom, my teacher sucks. She says, I'll make a call and change it. Right. So now little Timmy grows up thinking that the world bends to him. He doesn't adapt to the world. And that's what, you know, one of the biggest problems I think with shit nowadays. And it's the same thing right there within wrestling. Agreed. In wrestling, there's nothing. I always tell my kids, all my wrestlers right now, I didn't win matches because I enjoyed winning. I won because I hated losing that much. And it fucking is in wrestling, there's nothing more mentally taxing than, or any one-on-one sport, anything. I don't care if it's fucking track. When you lose or you lose one-on-one to a person, it's debilitating. Like, you know, I as tough as you want to act, or wrestlers are, there's been 1,000 times I had to go in the locker room and fucking cry and spike shit and flip out. And I was only doing that because I know I didn't work hard enough or work as hard as that kid. And that's why he got that. So, you know, that I think that's the big thing in like wrestling, that, and my kids, you know, it's just weird. So the school I'm not going to name that I coach at currently, we have a little bit of a different, it's not a big wrestling school. So we get some like poshier kids that didn't grow up wrestling. They don't really get it. And some of these kids I watch go out and literally get the snot beat out of them. And they walk off the mat laughing. And I'm like, I don't understand how you could do that. Like, for me, there's no way. Like, there's either one or the other thing I would do. I would either stop that and go to a different sport, or I would figure it out, because I'm not trying to get beat up all the time.
Yeah. Like, I would be, and I remember one time we were at a match and I lost, and I was like really upset afterwards. And you even came up to me, you're like, look, man, losing happens. But I feel like, because I was like crying and I was very upset. And like, you have it in your mind, like, you don't want to let your team down. And also, you fucking, if I was okay with that, I think that would have made you more upset than you being like, seeing how like it beat me up.
Yeah,
that's what I mean? Like, I knew what I did.
That's all you want to see as a coach. You care. I want to see you care.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I think there's certain advantages and disadvantages to both when it comes to a sport like football. That's very collaborative, and it's multiple people trying to take on one personality. And wrestling, where it's, like I said, it's autonomous. You control you're the master of your own fate. If you go out there and win, nobody can stop you. Nobody can come in the ring. You know, it's not like professional wrestling where someone's going to like throw a steel chair in there. Like, if you keep winning, you keep winning. And I had a lot of issues with that, especially when I got to high school, where I just was conditioned to never, ever, ever let a little bit of fear or anything come into my brain. And I mean, I played at North Penn, and we played some incredible teams.
Hell yeah.
That had like Division I players that ended up going to the pros and stuff. And I remember in the off season, we would get the schedule for the next year. And for example, we stopped playing St. Joe's Prep for like 5 or 6 years. I know that like in like 03, before they won the state championship, North Penn played the Prep, and then they stopped playing them for a while. And then finally we were going to get them back on our schedule. And like they had, I think like Andy Reid's kid was on the team, and there was some other, like the offensive coordinator.
For those that don't know, St. Joe's Prep is a team, or it's a school that can recruit, but they're a nationally ranked team almost every year. And they had a ton of NFL players come out of that school.
Yeah, they're allowed to recruit.
And just to put a side note in, they fucking sucked when I was in school. Until they could recruit, they were fucking trash.
Yeah. So anyway, and so finally we had them back on our schedule, and it was the off season. It was like spring, and we were just doing like speed camp, which is just where kids, become faster. And I remember there was like a group of kids that were looking at the schedule, and they're like, oh shit, we got prep. This guy's going D1. This guy, ran for 1 billion yards last year. This is going to suck, man. And I got so pissed at them for showing, like, for basically giving us an L. Like in the spring, before the game was even a cup. And the thing is like, I had to deal with that. I eventually became a captain on that team. And I knew that like part of the deal, part of our success was based on getting these people who already were terrified to even go into this game to actually get motivated somehow. And I didn't want to fucking deal with any of that. It sucked. And we ended up beating them, thank God. And it was awesome. But like, I would have loved to have done wrestling. I should have just done wrestling, and I only had to motivate myself.
I'll tell you what, Steve was a big proponent of that type of attitude. 2 types of attitude. One was, we might fuck with each other, but no one fucks with us.
The brother mentality. I can beat my brother. Beat the shit out of me daily. Somebody else put a hand on me, they getting fucked up.
They're fucking dead. Exactly. And the second thing is, the second mentality he had was, fuck them. I don't care if they've never lost or 3-time state champ. They have to fucking beat us, right? So fucking let them try. You know what I mean? So having those 2 types of attitude are very important, I thought, when it came to wrestling and life, really.
Yeah, and in that same spirit, you mentioned Neshaminy earlier, and I would just like to send out a big fuck you to Neshaminy, who is one of the, in my 3 years at North Penn, Neshaminy is the only team that beat us more than once. Neshaminy beat us like 3 times.
Their coach was a psychopath.
I hate Neshaminy so bad, man.
I'll tell you this. I remember when we had Pete on, we talked about one of the matches where Pete came through big time. Beating Neshaminy was one of those matches. Yep.
It came down to, I try to tell
hillbillies, man.
I try to tell people all the time about Pete, and I was like, This kid came into the high school, and I remember when you guys came in your sophomore years, and I was already a junior. And we already had a couple heavyweights and like a nice kid and who's no longer, passed away, whatever. But we had a guy in there and other kids, and they were all like, "No, we're pretty good. We wrestled since we were little. We're gonna." This kid Pete doesn't look like any. He's a big kid, but he don't look like nothing. Like he's gonna do nothing. And I'm like, "Are y'all about to get fucked up?" I was like, "You don't understand." I'm like, "No. Pete not only is all of 6'3", 265. My man used to have to skip a lunch here and there to make weight of heavyweight.
Yeah.
But Pete also, not only was he very strong like a bear, but Pete knew how to fucking wrestle. And when you're that size, you know how to wrestle like that. I still laugh the 2 times we beat Upper Perk for the District 1 championship. He had to wrestle. I forget the kid's name, but he was literally like, this is before they had the 220 weight. He was like a 200-pound kid. And he was super athletic football player, super talented. Just couldn't do a fucking thing against a monster like Pete.
Nope.
Pete was just he wrestled too long and was too talented to like. And it was just. And
he
ridiculous.
was sick of it. He was sick of losing.
Yep.
Pete was like one of those. He had lost as a young kid, and he just flipped the switch. He's like, "I'm done." Plus, too, people don't know this because he's the nicest fucking guy.
Human I've ever fucking met. Pete's the best.
Yeah.
But when he steps on the mat and when he puts it on, like I've only seen Pete get mad 2 times. And it was terrifying.
Yes. It's a big man. That's a big man.
He is legit a polar bear. Yeah.
Big man.
Oh yeah. And he's like got a head like a log, tough as they come. Yeah.
Yes. You could
So
you could hit him with a bat and it ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah, he doesn't act like a big guy either.
No,
That's a good
Pete's
point.
a big teddy bear.
If you had a phone call with him, you wouldn't even know that he's like a giant.
Nope.
Yeah.
Such a great. His parents are that way too. I think it was a byproduct of how he was raised. His dad's a great human.
Agreed.
His sister's a great person. They're great people.
Yeah.
Great people.
Yeah. Actually, we booked his parents to be on, so they're gonna.
Oh, his dad's
interviews.
the fucking man.
He's the man. He's the fuck. I can't wait because his dad owned a deli in the Northeast for
forever.
Fucking years.
Hence why his son
I can't wait to hear that.
Hence why his son is 6'3", 300. Pete was eating well.
Yeah, well, Pete. Yeah. But he could. You know what I mean? Fucking that was speaking of eating, I did want to bring this up. So I've talked about this on the show before about how our nutrition back then was nutrition's what we're calling it, but it wasn't.
How dare you?
So
how dare you?
Steve here, his after weigh-in meal. So like we would have weigh-ins. You haven't eaten in days, right? You're so like dehydrated and malnourished and like you're beat to shit, right? So you'd think like you'd want to get something good in you, right? Like I remember one kid used to eat a tub of cheese balls, right? But Steve's after weigh-in meal every time was an Italian hogie, right, Steve?
Oh, wow. A lot of the times, yes.
He would eat a whole Italian hoagie. Jake, next time you're feeling froggy, try not eating for 2 days. Try not drinking for like a day and like a little over a day.
While working out.
And then while working out like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then weigh yourself, and then 10 seconds after you step off the scale, house a foot-long Italian hoagie. Tell me how you feel.
Maybe that was a tactic,
and then go wrestle. And then go wrestle.
Maybe it was to have you could have Italian hoagie breath on the mat.
Imagine?
So like what?
Dude, could you imagine?
So what Joe Rogan always said too. What Rogan always says is that it's not wrestling that builds the character in wrestlers. He said it's or the reason why they flourish in sports like MMA. It's the fact that they've been preconditioned forever to not only absolutely deplete themselves of nutrients, but then perform at the highest level right after, because we're not getting IVs. Like he just said, I am completely depleted. I'm eating horse shit, reprocessed shit meat from Wawa. Like you're not getting an IV. Like you're going out there feeling like an asshole. But you just know that it's either
ton of soda and carbs. Oh, we're lethargic.
Yep. I mean, my senior year,
still wet and still go.
So my senior year to make that run, I had to, like he was saying, there's that kid Mark Smith at 140, and I was trying to win fucking districts and regionals and sectionals. So I was like, I had enough of this asshole. He was at 140.
Woodrin win district.
Yes. So when they did it, they do a thing in the beginning of the year. They call it your certs, right? Your certifications. They take your body mass,
the lowest weight you can get to, right?
Okay. Nowadays they stipulate you have to do this certain amount. Blah, blah. Back in the day, they would tell you your weight, and your weight meant that basically it would tell you that hey, at this weight you're at I think it was 4.5% is where you start to cannibalize muscle, and you're no longer losing fat. You're literally just cannibalizing your own muscle. So they put that at there. When I got that was at 139 for me. So I was like, no problem. I would wrestle 140, 145 most of the year. Then for the postseason, they give you what they call a 2-pound allowance. So 135 turns into 137. And I was looking at the landscape down there. And besides Brad Forbes, I was like, I'll fuck all these kids up. So I was like, no problem. I'll just lose the weight. The only problem was I've never felt more shitty in my life. I've never felt like that. I look back at pictures. I looked like an emancipated, like third world.
Oh, you were like a Holocaust victim, man.
Awful.
It was awful. So I'll say this. I've been a part and seen some really tough cuts. Do you remember when you were a junior and Asshole was a senior?
Yes.
And his cut for the Beast of the East? Do you remember that?
Is this the one with
which
one was it? Was it just a match or was it Bethlehem Liberty where the famous rolled his ankle while losing weight at the LC track happened? And then I was like, dude, you roll your ankle, and your brother's like, between me and you, I was way too fucking over. I was like, fuck this, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah. So this is what happened.
Tom was a psychopath with that too. Tom sucked for fucking weight. That kid was a psychopath with that.
He did 13 pounds overnight.
While he was in shape. Record. People hear that. It's not like Tom was fat. Tom was already in shape.
He didn't have.
And then lost 13 pounds.
He was shredded, 12-pack, everything.
And lost 13 pounds.
And Steve was the same way.
And how old would he? Was it senior year? What year was it?
Yeah, senior.
So he would have been 17. Yeah, I remember. So I know we've made my dad sound really good on this show.
Your dad's a fucking legend. Stop it. That guy took.
He sure was
such a no nonsense motherfucker. He's one of them dads. When he came around, me and Tom would stop giggling like fucking morons and straighten the fuck up.
It was yes, sir, for sure.
You're goddamn right.
So the night that Asshole lost 13 pounds in one night, we won't say the person's name, and please don't say his name, but we were at one of our wrestling coaches' houses, and he had a sauna, and we couldn't wear plastics because it was too hot and they melted.
Yep.
And my old man was in there, and he had a credit card, and he would like schlick the sweat off us because the sweat would get so hot it would scald our skin, right? And Asshole's in there. Right. And he's overweight, you know what I mean? And we're like, all right, take a break from the sauna. And my dad walks out, and God, I forget who the other person. I might have been Whit. And Whit walks out, and then Asshole is about to walk out, and my dad shut the door and locked him in there.
Unreal.
Yeah. And then he passed out.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Man. Hey, man. He made weight. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
He made weight.
So
I'll tell you, he would kill if he didn't. It was regionals too.
Oh boy!
So if he would have missed weight, he would have killed himself.
Yeah, your dad knew that too.
Killed himself.
Yeah, your dad knew that.
Yeah, it was he did it. He was doing what he thought best. Which, like in hindsight, had he not done it, I mean, maybe he could have gone away with not doing that. Who knows?
Right.
But he did make weight, and had he not, Asshole would regret it for the rest of his life. It would ruin his life.
So me and Hill, we always laugh. Me and Hill said that there was going to be if something happened to me and him, which, we're going on, I don't know, almost 20 years now out of high school. So hopefully this doesn't just slide up on us now, because now it's not so funny. But me and him, because Brandon sucked a fuckload of weight too, like a psychopath. And just so you know, like Brandon, so I knew all the guys on the team, but Brandon's a North Wales borough boy like me. So I grew up on South 6th Street. Brandon was on South 4th Street. Known the kid since we were babies, right? And so me and Brandon were always like, that was my guy. And we end up deciding that they just came out with those shitty ass weight loss pills back in the day, the Stackers, right?
Stacker.
So
oh shit, Steve, you remember that?
Me and Brandon in the mornings, they would tell you to take one. They came in a 3-pack. Fuck that. We're from North Wales. We're taking all of them, right? So we take all of them, and on an empty stomach, and we would run in the mornings too. So we ran for like an hour in the stairwell, which was always strange because Whit would literally not even change his clothes from the sweaty clothes. He would just walk into school with them on, which is another story for itself. Lunatic. Lunatic. So
love Whit. Whit's the best.
Me and Brandon would go over to the soda machine and find the highest caffeine soda, which back then was like Jolt Cola. and we'd fucking get one of those, take our 3 stackers and slam that soda. And those stackers have like 500 milligrams of caffeine in them too. And a whole bunch of shit that nobody knows that probably got scraped off the fucking
Federer was in there. Federer was in there, wasn't it?
All types of
shit. They're illegal now.
Yeah, oh yeah. And we used to take them at like 3 to 4 a morning. And I would be my blood pressure would be so high during the day. For the first 3 periods, I did my work, and I didn't even like schoolwork. I did my work, the person next to me's work. I ran in between classes. And then literally by the time we got to practice, I couldn't hold my head up. I couldn't breathe. Our hearts were palpitating out of our chest.
Yeah.
So hopefully that.
I remember, Stoobs, you used to come to my homeroom every morning and get some.
What chick was it? What chick was in your homeroom?
Yeah. But before we move on, I will say the asshole story. So what had happened was I was asleep in the living room.
That's my friend.
Okay, a-hole
right.
was out running, right? And he was like, dude, I think he was like 4 over, 5 over, maybe more, because he would cut like 9 in an afternoon. Like he would like wake up, be 9 over, and then make weight that night at 7:30. You know what I mean? So like he was like, I think it was one of those days, and because what had happened was he was over, came home, saw like a pitcher of lemonade on the counter, drank it, right? And then like tried to make himself throw up. He couldn't do it. And then he tried to go run, like he went running, and then I was asleep in the living room. He came in and like shook me, like crawling in. He came in and shook me. He's like, dude, my ankle. I think I broke my ankle. And right away, my first thought was like, you're such a fucking
you lying.
Like, I know that. But I was like, but then I had like, obviously I wasn't going to sell him out and be like, dude, man,
it's your brother.
He went to the hospital and everything. Yeah. And had crutches the whole 9. And that was only for that match. And then he was fine the next match.
Wait, has he ever acknowledged this, or does he still claim that?
He acknowledged it later in the year.
Oh yeah. Tom mentioned it, I think, after the match. He like dropped the crutches and was like, got him. But if there's ever a trap, this is literally what he just said right there. Is the last thing for this is. There is such a trap with wrestlers when you're cutting or anything, when you're cutting hard weight. People in MMA I've talked to about this, where going to jiu-jitsu tournaments, wrestling tournaments, you have like your real a weight cut, like a real one. You wake up, you can't go to sleep because you're so dehydrated. There's no spit in your mouth, right? So you can't even swallow. You're fucking going nuts. You have that gross film on your lips because you're so dehydrated. And at night, you're like, you know what? You do what they call float weight at night, right? So your body naturally metabolizes some. You're able to like, drop when you're cutting weight, you only lose like a couple tenths. If you're a normal human, you'll lose like 2 pounds overnight, right? Just sleeping. So at the middle of the night, when you're cutting terrible weight, you go into the fridge and you're like, you already preface yourself. You're like, I'll take 1 sip. And then you pick up a thing of water or juice or whatever. The second it touches your lips, and
biggest mistake.
You just start gulping it. And then all of a sudden, like you don't even think. And next thing you know, you just drank a gallon of water and you're fucked now. And you're just like, oh my God, what am I doing?
What I did this. So when I fought in the cage, I had like, I took the fight on 2 weeks notice.
Never a good idea.
I was like 14. Yeah. It ended up being okay.
Yeah.
But I was 14 pounds over the week, like 4 days out. Right. So I'm getting close to it was on a Friday night was weigh-ins. So I'm getting close to the weigh-ins, right? And I came up with the bright idea to make cubes of ice out of Pedialyte.
Hell yeah!
Right. So I did that, dude. Not gonna lie, because it did work. I ended up making the weight, and the cubes did help. But I was so just so dead. My muscle, everything. I was just felt like such a noodle. But I was gonna say, when you're talking about floating weight. When you're going to sleep, like, I'll float like half. Oh, if I could float like half.
You wake up and you gained a 10.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Is there anything worse than if you gained a 10th, you want to kill yourself.
Yep.
Or if you don't lose any at all, you're like, oh fuck.
Yes.
Fucking kill me.
Nothing worse to start your day that way.
Yeah. You're like, well, this is going to be a long day.
Yep.
But okay.
Terrific.
So We've talked about wrestling enough. We are going to talk about wrestling again later because, like we said, Steve is still coaching wrestling at this time. But I did want to get into a new segment of the show called Memory Lane.
Where do these bizarre memories come from? So in English, if you say this is lame when you're describing something, what you are saying is that it's not cool, it's not awesome, it's not interesting.
Memory Lane is where we bring up some topics from the 90s and discuss if they are still super radical, bruh, or if they're totally lame-ski, lame as in L-A-M-E, like not cool. All right, so Steve-O, it is a tradition on the show that the guests will bring up their memory lane item first. If you could please present us with your first memory lane item or topic or whatever it is.
So this is something that was a rite of passage in my neighborhood growing up, right? So
I like it.
There was
it already.
Little something called, I don't know how old if you guys remember this, but a little something called a roller racer.
Roller racers got me gonna get down and go. Don't know how it does it. How's it do it? How's it go? Roller racers got me, you just sit down and swing. No motor and no batteries, but something really moves that thing. I got a roller racer's got me. I don't get
So
it.
roller racer was like a small seat for your ass cheeks, and it had two little handles, and you put your feet on this thing, and you wiggled side to side, and it would move.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
So of course, that little piece of shit didn't do enough for us because we're psychopaths in North Wales. And we decided that the best way to do it was to tie a ski rope to a bike and start at the biggest hill we could find and then come whipping around the neighborhood with this on the back, right? And I'm pretty sure if there's any guy that was born between the years 1980 and 1986 from North Wales, they got a nice big roller racer scar somewhere on their body.
Oh my God!
Now, were they meant for you to have an okay time?
At it now. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this thing has to be illegal now. Right?
It was.
They don't produce these
when our
anymore.
Parents got them for us, they were like, "Oh, they're cute. They can't do too much with it because you can't go that fast if you don't have an assistance from your other asshole friends."
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh, these things are great. They'll be fine with them." And then they saw us come flying down the street with a bike and a rope tied to it, and people just completely road rash, losing skin, teeth, breaking arms.
No, your neighborhood is basically on a hill.
Yes.
You know, like your whole neighborhood, it's a hill. So you could go on any street and you're just like, tuck and roll. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, they were that thing was quite the tool for us as a kid.
I remember one of the big things that we would do, and I don't know, this wasn't like a rite of passage thing, but it was one thing we would do in the neighborhood. If you had a skateboard and your buddy had pegs, you'd lay on your stomach on the skateboard and grab the pegs, and they would go hitting your hair and your forehead. And you're like, yeah. But then like you would let go, and they would turn, and you just
rocket,
like
hell
shooting. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, until you face first into whatever. It's tough to stop that way.
Yeah, no brakes.
A lot of respect for those skeleton racers.
No brakes. No brakes on them.
No brakes. So yeah, all right, nice. So like, dude, I'll tell you what, fucking A. Well, let's vote on it. So Shake Diggity, what are your thoughts on roller racing down a hill with a fucking attached to a bike and whipping around? End up with it. What are your thoughts?
I think this thing's rad, and especially with the modified way that the end up kids use it is super
correct. Correct. I would say the roller racer by itself is not so rad.
Not so rad.
But when you end up the shit out of it, this thing is fucking rad. I'll tell you that right now. I'm voting rad. Steve, your vote, please.
I'm going to go with, I don't think I have a visible scar anymore, so lame, because I didn't obviously ride as hard as I should have.
Wow. Oh, wow. Disappointing.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep.
That's funny.
All right. Funny. So, nice. Okay. So, very good. All right. Loved it. So, Shake, your memory lane item today, please.
Sure. Can I ask a North Wales question since we're on the topic?
Hell yeah. Shoot, brother.
I heard a North Wales, and I don't know if I'm not going to mention the person's name, but you can bring it up and maybe we will mention his name.
Oh, I'll know it.
But it involves somebody going in a storm drain and like traveling. It was like during like a hurricane or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I sure do.
What is this?
This was another It was a kind of another rite of passage. So there was a lot of small creeks. A small creek of part of the Wissahickon runs through North Wales because it kind of starts out around there. and there's small little portions, but there's these little tiny, it's only little tiny shit drainage creeks. They're not like full bred creeks.
Yeah.
And when it rained, they would get super aggressive. There's one that goes under Montgomery Avenue. There's another one on 7th Street.
Yeah.
And they're almost just these little tubes underneath that we used to run through and stuff. But once the water got a moving, you could grab the pipe and like hang under it and let it like drag your body. And
whoa.
So said this legendary psychopath from our neighborhood got stuck under there, and me, his brother, and a couple other people pretty much thought we were watching him drown.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. What are we allowed? All right, we won't say their name.
It was my fucking guy. It's Chaz Ziegler, who's no longer around.
Oh
but
shit.
Chuck was he was always the guy to want it. And Sean Day did it because he was a lunatic. He became a Navy SEAL later, by the way. Fucking Navy SEAL.
Sure did. Friend of the show.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then who was the other? Oh man, I forget. Josh.
The boys.
Yes,
that's my guy. Yeah,
that's another. I've seen and heard some stories about him. The boys one time
wild.
I ended up with him down in Ocean City, New Jersey one time, and he was on the rampage, and we were trying to keep him out of trouble.
Him and his brother too. Him and his brother were both cannoneers that were good football players.
Yeah.
His brother was a monster.
Yeah, that's so funny. Anyway, North Wales, great stories.
Jesus Christ. There's something in the water with you fucking loon. I'll tell you what. I will say, like, we had like friendly rivalry with some of the North Wales guys, but I think we always got along with you guys. Like our neighborhood always got along with your neighborhood, just because we were all like kind of the same kind of blue collar crazy dumbasses.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But you guys, there's something in the water, you crazy fucks, every one of you. I would love to have like a North Wales Legends episode where we just have a bunch of legends on and everyone tells a fucking crazy story from North Wales and then we fucking blast it out.
The weird part too, it was so diverse. Like, you know what I mean? Like we had, like me and Brandon were the only two in the neighborhood that wrestled.
Yeah.
And then we had like great football players in Zeblum and Romeo's who were nasty football players.
And track stars too.
Then we had track stars and Victor Jakes and Matt Henderson. And then we had baseball stars and Bo Ziegler and you know what I mean? Like we had a little bit of everybody kind of had their own like in betweens. It was weird.
Okay. Let's see here. For memory lane this week, I'm gonna offer up. Let's go with Blockbuster Video.
Nobody has the movie I want.
Hey, if it's on video, Blockbuster probably has it. I mean, we have over 10,000 videos.
Wow.
I'll watch these fast and have them back tomorrow, I promise. Relax. At Blockbuster, you can keep your videos for 3 evenings, so take home plenty. And use our 24-hour quick drop.
Do you have any children's videos?
Sure. Blockbuster's America's family video store. You know, we have more kids' videos than any place else. More movies, more nights, more fun.
Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference.
Whoa.
Blockbuster
Video. Okay, so, all right, real quick, though. So Blockbuster Video is big, but do you remember Hollywood Video too?
Hell yeah, they have better games. Video game consoles in Hollywood.
Yeah. Hollywood was all right. I liked them both though. But
fuck Blockbuster because they would charge you extra if you didn't rewind your fucking tape. You suck my nuts.
Rewinding the tape.
Rewind, be kind. They're like, sorry. My mom's like, you know that movie we rented? I had to pay an extra 99 cents because you didn't rewind it. I'm like, what?
Be kind, please rewind.
I'm like,
oh my God.
What shithead hates their life enough that his job is to literally pop every fucking VHS tape in and see what's not rewound? And then snitch on you like a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, no wonder they didn't no wonder there's no Blockbusters anymore. Well, dude, I remember I got
rental video places in general.
I got such an ass beating one time because we had rented the movie Grease, right? Mm-hmm. And we rented the movie Grease and we lost the cover, like the plastic cover, right? And they went to return. Oh yeah, because we couldn't find it. Right, and my mom's like, "It's $13 for this fucking cover. I'm taking it out of your ass." And I was like, "Mom!" And then we found the cover behind the trash can. It all turned out great. But yeah. And I didn't even rent the movie, but I was the one that got fucking shit for it.
You remember
renting movies.
Do you remember their like promo model where they used to show you that the store was big enough to fit a dinosaur in? And that was like their shtick. They had a commercial. They'd show like a fucking brontosaurus or some shit in the store and be like, this store is so big you could fit a dinosaur. And I was like, damn, I gotta go there.
That's great.
Dude, I do miss when they would have like the big like poster cutouts, you know?
Hell yeah.
Like when you would walk in. I remember specifically there was a video store. I remember this as a little kid. There was one that had a big cardboard cutout of the Sandlot.
Hell yeah.
You know? Which I was like, oh, that's the coolest.
Hell yeah.
That would be awesome.
Dude, there is some shit. There's no way you're getting that now, pal.
Nah.
You know?
Yeah.
But eventually someone will be able to get holograms, so that'll be nice.
And I actually miss it now. Like even on the weekends now, like my wife and I, like we don't have any kids, so we have nothing to do all the time. And usually on like the weekend, like
nothing is the best thing.
I was about to say that sounds. I don't have kids, but I can only imagine how my brother would respond to that exact segment.
Yeah. If nothing was what we were doing, that would be my best fucking
just to show you how bored we are. My wife always yells at me. She goes, "You say this every weekend." I tell her, I wish I could just walk around a Blockbuster or a video store right now looking at movies and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you, like that was like a thing though. Like
it's too, you can't cruise around on Netflix. It's too annoying.
Yep.
You know.
And you never find it.
Nope.
Like I cruise around on Netflix and then I end up, all right, I'll just fucking I'll go to Hulu.
That's always
then,
what happens. Or I just settle on some shit I don't even want to watch. I'm like, fuck it, I'll try this.
Yeah, and then you turn it off in 20 minutes, like Bohemian Rhapsody. You know? Like, come on.
When I was a little kid, my dad would take me to it was called West Coast Video.
Hell yeah.
Hell
yeah.
I played on West Coast Video baseball.
Yeah, me too. I love West Coast Video.
It used to be right next to the Romeo's fine art store for a minute, which we always used to go in there.
Oh shit. Over by like Peddlers and them?
Yep.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Peddlers, man. Peddlers rule.
Yeah.
I love Peddlers.
Peddlers was the fucking place.
But my dad would take me in there and I always went right to like the horror section, and I was like a little kid, and I used to get so scared just looking at the covers of like the VHSs.
Like Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, and of course my dad, like would always jokingly like sort of push me towards the adult section.
Yes, I was about to say,
and I'd be like mortified. They're like, Dad, I can't go.
I was about to say,
now I think back about how funny that was.
That's
like,
awesome.
That must have
that's the best.
I remember glancing at that room in the back and seeing that room and like the little door with the black like fucking curtain that hung over it. You were like, "Oh, that's the room." The boom room.
I would love if there was like we could talk to someone who owned a video store for like 30 years and just be like, dude, what kind of shit were you seeing cheap and rent? Like when you saw like a creeper come in, or what was even worse? Like
back there.
Well, like say if they had kids, right? What if they saw their kid's teacher come in and buy like, gangbang 27 or bend over and say 5. You know what I mean? And they're walking out and like, oh wow, I didn't know that person was in.
I mean, they must have made all their money on that because they certainly had those sections and they never got rid of them.
Nope.
So. They definitely made all their money.
I mean, I remember
I never was old enough to go in one.
I remember as asshole kids just even driving by fucking Adult World, and if you saw a guy out front walking, you're like,
my
"You
God.
fucking pervert!"
Well, no. So what we used to do, and this is from my buddy Ryan Payton, who listens to the show. Can't wait to have him on front of the show. But what we used to do, and he gave us this idea when we would drive by Adult World, we would yell, "Dad! Dad, what are you doing? What about Mom? What are you doing? Dad, don't go in there!"
That's great.
That's great. The best.
Until one guy turns around and goes, "Fuck that bitch." You're like, "Whoa, buddy, whoa."
So, yeah. So, okay. So dude, I'll tell you, I loved going to the video store and like, cause we would go as like, when we went, my dad would be like, all right, everyone gets to pick one movie. You know what I mean? Or like or he would be like, okay, it's Alex's turn. He gets to pick the movie tonight or something like that. Right. And we would go get movies and it was fucking, dude, it was a time, you know what I mean? It did suck having, you could return them in the slot though. They had like a mail slot you could return them in too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was cool. Yeah. But okay, so we've deliberated enough. So let's chat about it. So, Steve Ann, what are your thoughts on old, we'll just say video stores in general, not just Blockbuster, all video stores.
Fuck yeah, I'm with it.
Radical?
Yes, sir.
Shake Diggity.
Yeah, absolutely radical.
I'm gonna agree. We're gonna make it a Mondo Radical on video stores. I miss them.
Right.
I wish we could go back to them, but I kind of don't because, like Steve said, rewinding sucked. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna do one more memory lane item from me, and we kind of brushed by it, and I do want to talk about it. Actually, we won't talk about that. We'll talk about something else. But I want to bring up the game Mousetrap.
Hey, give that back!
Mouse trouble? Then you need Mousetrap. Mousetrap, I guarantee it's the craziest trap you'll ever see. The first to capture everyone else's mouse is the winner. Just turn the crank and snap the blank and boot the marble right down the chute. Now watch it roll and hit the pole and knock the ball in the rubbered up tub, which puts the man into the pan. The trap is set. Here comes the net. Ouch! Mousetrap, I guarantee it's the craziest trap.
Remember the game Mousetrap?
Ooh.
Yes.
Not the wrestling move.
Yeah.
The game.
You get.
Not the wrestling move.
You can cut this, Shake, but after we talked about Adult World, I did want to bring up like VHS porn back in the day, but I don't think Shake would ever. I don't think you're old enough to get into that. But there was a thing.
I'm not that young. I'm just a couple years younger than you.
All right, I didn't know. But
bring it up, man.
I remember telling people this. That back in the day, there was 3 types of currency before the internet hit with, what we have now that we all love. But before the internet hit with an endless supply of porn, there was 3 types of currency. There was booze, there was drugs, and there was porn. And you could trade porn to get one of the other 2. Yeah. And a lot of times you did.
Yes.
Absolutely. And dude, you would have a tape. You would have a tape that you rode the fucking wheels off of this thing. You had a tape that you watched so many times that you couldn't watch it anymore. You know what I mean? Like you had like relationships with these tapes.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? It had like 6 scenes on it. And you're like, you got everything on every scene. Telling you that right now. And when you got a fresh tape, it was like, forget about it. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Okay.
A certain person who provides the music for this show may or may not have reached the age where he could actually go to West Coast Video or whatever it was called eventually. I think they switched the names, and he eventually got to the age where he could go into the adult section.
Hell yeah.
And he did.
He grew up around the corner. Must have went in there as like a toddler, and then whoever owned the place saw him grow to the age where he could finally go into the adult section.
Oh, that's the best. See, that's the kind of shit I would love to hear. Like you seeing this kid coming in, buying, the Land Before Time, and then he comes back
now he's
buying,
bad
Teachers 27.
Yeah, brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah. Okay. So, but let's talk about Mousetrap, the game. Pretty cool. Yeah, it was awesome. Okay. So, all right. We're done talking about Mousetrap. What are we voting on Mousetrap? Steve, what are your thoughts? The game Mousetrap.
Fuck out of my face.
Got it. All right. Lame. And you, Shake Diggity?
Yeah, it's lame. You can't even put it together. The whole game is trying to set it up.
Yeah, it is. And that was the part. And
it's annoying.
And I have ADHD out the wazoo. So like 2 seconds in, I'd be like, I'm fucking done.
Yeah, fuck this game. Okay, same. So we're gonna round it out with a Mondo Lame. All right, so that was another rousing segment of Memory Lame. That's lame as in not cool, like LAME. For those of you listening, submit any memory lame topics or ideas to us on Instagram at Working Perspectives Podcast and on the Twitter at Working P Pod. All right, fans, time for a break in the action. Bring you back one of our favorite segments. This is The Date You Hate with our good friend Malcolm Bach. Malcolm, what's the date and what do you hate?
The date is April 12th, 1827. So I pull my horse up to this place called Wawa. It's this old lady, and tell you what, she makes the best sandwiches. Well, I've been craving an egg salad sandwich for a while, so I have her make me one. And then after my 15-mile journey home, come home and I take it out of the wrapper, and there's no egg salad in it. I mean, what the hell? That's all it is eggs and like mayonnaise, and it's not hard to make. I just got bread and cheese. That's the date, and that's what I hate.
All right, that was The Date You Hate with our good friend Malcolm Bach. Now, back to the show. All right, so let's keep it moving. Let's keep it shaking, because our boy Steubens here has got a hell of a story. All righty, so our boy Steve was born in Norristown Hospital, lived in Norristown until he was 8. Then he moved to where he would really get his roots in and call home, which is N-Dub, which is also known as North Wales. He went to public school, K to 12. Then he went to East Stroudsburg to wrestle for a little bit. And then he came back and went to Montco. While in school, he played football till he was a sophomore. He wrestled still till present day. He played baseball till he was a sophomore, and then, stopped that. But wrestling was his big thing, as we know. Steve's old man, great dude, right? Great dude, real good guy, salt of the earth, blue collar guy. He owns a garage, an auto garage, right? And this is something that's really fascinating to me, because I'm one of those guys, like, look, I can change my tire if it's flat, you fuckers. I can, I have changed the oil in my car, all that stuff. But Steve is a whiz when it comes to car stuff. His old man is a whiz. Steve is also a certified welder, and he can weld and all that cool shit. So we've talked on this episode where there's men and dudes. So me and Shake are a bunch of dudes, and Steve is classified as a man. So Steve can work with his hands and does all these things. But Steve's been working in the car garage since, 11, Steve, would you say?
Around there, yep.
Yeah, so he's working. So imagine this, Shake, being 11 years old. You come home from school, you have your Pop-Tart, then you head over to your dad's garage, and you're parking cars and changing oils and sweeping up the shop at 11 years old. Imagine,
oh my God.
Imagine I have I'm not gonna lie, I'll tell you what, I do love when you have, like, because you're trusting your car with someone is a big deal to me, especially. I think everyone's like that. So when you have a shop like Steve's shop, where it's like, you trust these guys, they're not gonna fuck you on the price, they're not gonna give you all this bullshit like one of those, the chains would do, and they're actually gonna do good work, and they can do everything. Those are the kind of shops that you like, they're hidden gems, and you want to find them and you want to know them.
Of course.
And Steve's like that. But they're also the kind of shops that'll let an 11-year-old drive your car and change your oil, right? But if he does a good job, who gives a shit? So Steve, what would you say, like, when you were young, let's say from like 11 to like 13, like that age, what kind of jobs would your old man have you doing around the shop?
So to give it a little perspective, I laughed at this because there's there's one of the only other places we've been in business 25 years now, right? We've had about,
God bless you.
We've had maybe 2 or 3 guys come in here and work with us. We hired a couple people over the years, maybe like 4 guys total. None of them really worked out because they don't have the work ethic that my old man did, that he instilled in me and my brother. Like they're not willing to do what it needs to be done, right? Well, my dad, which is kind of weird because my dad's not an immigrant whatsoever. Neither are my mom. They're both born in America. Their parents were born in America. But I had that immigrant upbringing with the family only, small business, nobody but not even cousins, immediate family, just me, my brother, my dad. My cousin worked here for a little bit, but my mom sometimes did the front counter. But it was literally like, I laughed. The only other one I know around here in North Wales was Tony's Pizza, because their dads, their dad and their mom are both from Sicily, but they literally, it's old school, just mom, dad, brother, sister. And so with that mentality, my dad had the same mentality with, if you're here and you're a body, you're going to learn some shit today. His biggest thing in life was, he doesn't need you to be Einstein, but don't be a fucking moron. Like, learn, look around, learn stuff. So, he's always like, pay the fucking
use
attention.
Your fucking head.
Again, I don't need you, like, creating the flux capacitor. but I need you to not be a fucking idiot. So he put a lot of he always, and I think this kind of built up to my mentality of wrestling too, would always put little challenges in front of you. And then he would kind of give you the shit talk of hey, that car right there, I need you to pull it in. I need you to rotate the tires, change the oil. Never mind. And I would go, what? You go, you can't do that. And I'd be like, you motherfucker. So then even though I didn't want to do it, he would trick me into doing a lot of stuff because he knows I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go fucking ride my 3-wheeler or a dirt bike or something. And he'd be like, I would tell you to do that, but you can't do that. You definitely couldn't do that.
But you've been, so even at that age, and I know guys now that wouldn't they would see a normal tool set and not it would fucking flip their heads over. You know what I mean? So you at that age were able to I bet that you worked on your 3-wheelers and your 4-wheelers and stuff too, didn't you? Oh yeah, you're fucking hooking them up. You took care of all that stuff and everything like that. So you legit were able to handle tools that were adult tools, and you learned how to use them and learned the value of tools and being able to work like that. That's honestly, that's the best education your parents could have ever gotten for you.
He showed me that if I show up and I work hard, he'll get me the shit I want. You want a dirt bike? All right, you got to come into the shop for a month straight. You got to wash the floors every fucking day. I know it sucks. I know they're really dirty. You got to wipe down the toolbox. You got to you got to clean the toilet. You got to do all that shit. But eventually, trust me, it's going to pay out. And then I'd get that 3-wheeler and be like, oh shit, all right, well, I want a dirt bike next. He's like, well, now it's 2 months. And I'd be like, fuck, all right. And he taught you that, if you bust your ass, you'll get what you want.
And then before you know it, you're changing carburetors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, there's a great saying, Nate Diaz, the MMA fighter. We all know Nate Diaz, super famous MMA fighter. He had a saying where he never did jujitsu. Then there was an old head from his neighborhood that was like, hey, come in, do jujitsu, and I'll buy you a burrito afterwards. And he didn't want to learn jujitsu. He's just fucking hungry.
Yeah.
Right? So he was he would go and do jujitsu and then get a burrito. Go and do jujitsu and then get a burrito. And then before he knew it, he had his fucking blue belt and brown belt. And he was killing people.
And now he's a legend.
Now he is the epitome of the working man's hero. I'll tell you that.
I agree.
That fucking guy.
Great.
He is a legend. But so that's the kind of thing your dad did for you. That's fucking awesome. And
I mean,
I'll tell you this. That is one skill I would love. Go.
It got wild enough that so as you may know, Matt, but some people don't know, I was a little wild when I was younger, right? So I made a couple mistakes here and there, this and that. You know what I mean?
We all do, brother.
A couple contacts with the police, things like that. So long story short, I didn't have a license in high school, right? Because I wasn't allowed. Right. Anyway,
same.
The state said no go for you, buddy, which was annoying because I was driving cars since I was 11. I'm like, fam, I'm a better driver than you, but whatever. So I used to come home from high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade to my parents' house in North Wales. And my dad's shop was in West Point, which is about roughly 2-3 miles away. So I would jump on my 3-wheeler every day and fly through North Wales, make a couple shortcuts through some woods. And the cops knew because first off, I'm one of the only kids in the neighborhood with a dirt bike. And not only a dirt bike, it's a fucking 3-wheeler, which are ultra rare. So every time they saw this big ass red 3-wheeler doing 50 down the street, they knew who the fuck it was. So they used to call my dad all the time and be like, hey, Steve's on a 3-wheeler. My dad would be like, all right, did you fucking catch him? Because if not, don't call me with this bullshit. And then eventually they realized I was coming here every day. So the second I would fly by one of them, they would literally just drive to my dad's shop. And as I pulled up there, they would be waiting for me. And they're like, dude, you got to stop doing this.
Yeah. You can't be 14 and going 50 with no helmet on a 3-wheeler on a major road, pal. You're like, hey, we're not doing this for us, genius. They don't want to be scraping you off the street.
And the guy's like, what the fuck, dude? And when I got in high school, he was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why don't you you own a shop? Why don't you have a car? And then he looked and he's like, you had a fucking DUI when you're 15? And I'm like,
on a 3-wheeler?
He's like, is that possible? And I'm like, that's what I said, bud. That's what I said.
Yeah. You thought you were immune.
I was like, if I don't have a license, you can't get me in trouble for not driving, right?
Yeah. And 3-wheelers are illegal now, right? They don't even make them anymore.
They banned them in 1988.
Oh no.
Really?
Yep.
Because I've been on a couple 3-wheelers. I didn't know they were illegal that long.
They started making them in 1981, And then within 8 years, like 100,000 people killed themselves on it, because if you turn it real quick, it tips super quick. So if you don't know how to ride, I can't tell you, every kid in North Wales that's ever been on I guarantee this, of guys my age, the first motor vehicle that was to say that they've ever driven was always in my alleyway behind my house. And it was my dirt bikes. And I'm going to shoot for the average was about, I would say 9 out of 10. So 90% of the guys that ever got on one of my dirt bikes instantly crashed them motherfuckers into a tree, into a fence, into a parked car.
You must have been so pissed.
I mean, after the first one, I got over it, and then I realized it was awesome, and I knew the outcome. So they would see me like riding wheelies and making it look easy, and they're like, "I want to ride." I'm like, "Please do." And then they would get on and smash that thing into something. And I'd be like,
that's one of those things that's like an idea you would have now. Like, say if it's now, if you had a video cam or a phone, right? That's a YouTube channel that gets 1 million views every fucking day. You know what I mean? Just watch this moron crash. Hey, moron's crashing. You know what I mean? Like you would be freaking all over. But sorry, Shake, I interrupt you. What were you gonna say?
I have zero experience on motorcycles or motorbikes or anything, but I have been on a three-wheeler. And I'm sure I was like 10 years old on a three-wheeler in my buddy's front lawn, because he had hedges all around. So I think that his dad thought, well, they can't get outside those hedges. They're safe in there. And of course, immediately I would just drive it right into the hedges or try to turn. And if there's a little hill, you're going to roll yourself.
Yeah.
And then the neighbors down the street from me had like crotch rockets and stuff.
Hell yeah.
And I was always jealous of those things, man. Those things look awesome.
Yeah.
Two things I always said. One thing was, no person, I've rode crotch rockets my whole life. It's like my favorite thing on earth. Me and Brandon Hill used to say this all the time. Nobody on the planet looks at you with more admiration and more love in their heart when you're on a crotch rocket than a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah.
You drive by a 10-year-old kid, look in his eye is he just saw the coolest thing he's ever seen in his life just went by.
Yeah. It's like, hey, they make one in my size now.
And two, the parents of my buddies we grew up with used to cringe when it snowed, because when it snowed, I'd tie a sled to my three-wheeler and fly up to my buddies' houses and hit their windows with snowballs until they come out. And their parents would be like, "Please do not get in that sled with him." And then we'd go up the street, they'd jump in the sled, and I'd take them at 50 miles an hour down the street while I'm like fucking 13. Yeah, parents are not happy about that.
Yeah, only Mr. Hill was like, "Get the fuck out of my house. Go hang out with the kid breaking people's arms with his dirt bike." Yeah. It's like, just as long as you're out of this fucking house. Get out of here.
A lot of people in that house.
All right, folks, we're going to cut you off right there, and we're going to leave you in suspense for next week. This is the end of part 1 of the Steve Cabot duo. So you can find us on all podcast platforms and YouTube at Working Perspectives Podcast. You can find us on Spotify at The Working Perspectives Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Working Perspectives Podcast. And you can join us on the Twitter at Working P Pod. If you'd like to be on the show and go through the approval process with those bastards down at the PAAA and see if you can get in, then you can email us at workingperspectives@gmail.com. Shake Diggity, you got anything you want to say to the peeps before we take off?
No. Power to the people.
All right, riveting stuff. Okay, stick around for the ad read. This is the end of the episode. All right, see ya. Do you have a message or a story inside of you that you've been waiting to tell? Have you always dreamed of writing a book, but are intimidated by the complexities of the book publishing world? Perhaps you want to use a book to launch your public speaking or consulting career. If so, please reach out to Scott and Bell Publishing, located right here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Scott and Bell Publishing handle all genres and authors with all experience levels. Scott and Bell Publishing gives authors 100% creative freedom and a higher royalty split. They can be found at www.skotbell.com. That's www.s as in Sam, K as in Kite, O as in October, T as in Tom, B as in Boy, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.com. That's Scott and Bell Publishing, where the authors go.